this video, I will provide you a detailed introduction to the CELPIP test. So many people haven't heard about this test, while others, they know what it is or they've heard about it, but they don't really know exactly what is the CELPIP test. In this video, I will provide a detailed overview of this test. What is CELPIP, or the Canadian English Language Proficiency Index Program? That is what it stands for. It is an English language proficiency exams designed to test your English language level. It is like the IELTS or PTE or OET. It's just an English exam to test your English language proficiency. But this is Canadian based. Whether you are preparing to live, work, or study in Canada, the CELPIP test is a fantastic way to prove your English proficiency. It is specifically designed for Canada. There are two versions to this test, the CELPIP General and the CELPIP General LS. The CELPIP General is intended for people who are planning to migrate or study or work in Canada, or as some people will call it, for your PR process or your study permit or your work permit. While the CELPIP LS is for people who are applying for a Canadian citizenship. So for that one, you're only tested on the listening and speaking skills. You don't have to do the writing and reading anymore. Now, I'm going to break down the CELPIP General Test into little bits. One of the standout features about the CELPIP test is that it uses only Canadian accent and Canadian vocabulary in reading, writing, listening, and speaking sections. So you're not going to hear other accents like the British accent or the Australian accent. It is strictly Canada-based. Let's talk about the structure. This test is divided into 4 sections: the listening, reading, writing, and speaking, in that order. So starting with the listening test lasts for about 47 to 55 minutes, and it tests your ability to listen to spoken English and then answer the questions. One interesting thing about the CELPIP listening is that you hear the recording first before the question appears. You are not able to see the questions while you listen. Some students find that a little challenging because they prefer to be able to read the questions as they listen. For the CELPIP test, you listen to the recording first before you see the questions, but they are not very long recordings. The longest is about 3 minutes long. So it's usually between 1.5 minutes to 3.5 minutes long. So it's not a very long recording. You can do it. You are required to answer 38 questions, and every question carries equal marks. If you answer 38 questions, that will be 38 answers or 38 marks. Every question is equally important. Now let's move on to the reading section. In this section, you will be given 4 pieces of text. This section is divided into 4 parts, and you will be answering 38 questions as well. And the reading test lasts for about 55 to 60 minutes. And for the writing, it lasts for about 53 to 60 minutes thereabouts, and you are required to write 2 tasks: an email and a survey. It's really all about day life context, everyday today context, nothing educational or nothing out of the ordinary. It's really about every day-to-day situation. And finally, the speaking lasts for about 15 minutes to 20 minutes. And it is done on the computer, strictly on the computer. There is no live interview or a one-on-one interview. You do the speaking on the computer recording itself like a robot. The entire CELPIP test is completed under 3 hours, which means it has to be done in one sitting. There is no other day and there is no breaks at all. You have to be ready and brave enough to sit for 3 hours without any breaks. One of the best things about the CELPIP test is that it focuses on everyday today situation, everyday real life scenarios like applying for a job, asking for directions, joining groups, just being able to find your way around. Just the kind of situations you would find yourself in Canada. Those are the kind of things you are being tested on. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing out of everyday today context. If you cannot figure out those kind of situations, it means that you are going to struggle when you eventually move into Canada. Now, let's move on to the structure of the test. The CELPIP test is 100% computer delivered. That means there is no pen and paper version. Everything is done on the computer, from the listening to the reading to the writing and also the speaking. Yes, like I said before, everything is done on the computer. So if you are a computer newbie, you might probably be thinking right now, how am I going to survive? I don't know how to use a computer. But trust me, you don't have to worry about that. Majority of my students are people who have never owned a laptop or never owned a computer. Of course, if you don't have a reason to have one, why buy one? You just need to have a basic knowledge of a computer. That is all. Nothing out of the ordinary. Actually, the only area you should be a little concerned is the writing, where you have to type, because you have to know how to type. It doesn't mean you need to start taking courses on learning how to type. With just constant practice, you are good to go. For every other part of the test, you really do not need to worry. For listening and reading, all the questions are multiple choice in a drop-down menu, so you are not writing anything. All you are doing is choosing your answers, A or B or C or D. That is all. You don't even need to click on next to move on the test. Once your time is done or once your time is over, it automatically moves to the next part. Even for the speaking, you don't have to do anything. Like literally, you're not the one to manually start to click when you have to start talking or to stop it. Everything is automated, so you don't have to worry at all, even though it is 100% computer delivered. Now, let's talk about how your test reports are delivered. The good news is you do not have to wait for a very long time to get your results. Previously, it will take about 5 days to get your result, but right now, within 3 days, your results are out, so you don't have to worry a lot. And how often or how many times can you take this test? You can take it as often as you want and as many times as you want. There is no limits as to how many times you can take the test. Of course, the only limit will be your money. Yes, will be your money. That's the only limit. Otherwise, you can take the test as many times as you want. Now, another question we get a lot is, what is a good CELPIP score? Now, it depends on the purpose you need the result for. So what I always do is I tell my students, ask your immigration lawyer or your immigration consultant, or if you're handling your process by yourself, just check how many points you need. Or if you're taking this for study purposes or for work purposes, ask your employer or ask your school, what is my desired score? Or what is the required score? That's the best way to figure it out. There is no one shoe or one size fit everyone. One person might need a minimum of a 9, another person might need a minimum of 7, someone else might need a minimum of 10. Situations differ. So it all depends on the reason why you are taking the test. So just find out and do what works for you. I really hope that this very brief overview of the CELPIP test will give you an idea of what the CELPIP test is about and will help you determine if this test is actually for you. If you've got further questions, please feel free to ask in the comment section and I will be more than ready to answer your questions.